Welcome everybody to my channel and another art journal tutorial. Here is a sneak peek. So I'm starting off and I'm putting light blue permanent and bright aqua, and I have some white paint, and that is going to go with the makeup sponge onto the background. I just want kind of a blue sky behind the florals that I'm going to put on. And I just find that you need more than one color to build interest in your background. And I like the mottled look. It just gives a lot more interest than if you just painted it one solid color. So if you want a tip doing backgrounds, you want something that doesn't look quite as flat, just try this. Pick two colors, very similar colors. These are colors next to each other on the color wheel with the white. You know they're going to mix well. They're not going to make mud, and it just makes the background all the more interesting. Now, I did not gesso this page, but I am moving fairly quickly and keeping a wet sponge. Now, I grabbed the bubble wrap and I was going to kind of stamp off paint, but all that happened there was the dried paint on the bubble wrap ended up on my page. So then I grabbed some ultramarine blue, rub it on to the bubble wrap, and I just press that in. I've kind of a love-hate relationship with bubble wrap. I like it when other people use it, but I'm never quite happy with it. So I thought, I'm going to put it in the background. It's interest. There's going to be a fairly huge focal point on here. So we're not going to see a lot of that. And I'm just looking at adding interest. This is a new Crafters Workshop stencil called Plumeria. And I will put I'll put its name down below, and you can go through the TCW Shopify store to get this if you are interested in it. Other supplies will also be in there. I'm also using the TCW light and fluffy modeling paste. And I'm going to, no, I'm not. I'm using the gesso. And I'm just gessoing through the stencil. I want to white out the background there because I want to apply color to the flowers. Now, the Crafters Workshop, specifically this designer, Carmen Medlin, she has some wonderful, wonderful florals, and I love them. The art is absolutely amazing, but I typically end up doing the same thing. I'll put it in black after I have a colorful background. And I just wanted to do some different things with it. I've been watching some videos where people are using stencils and then painting the flowers, just using that as a basic guideline, and then painting and adding their own details. So I just wanted to stretch what I'm doing, try something somewhat different. And that's where the quote comes from on this art journal page. Old ways won't open new doors. So you need to try something different. Now, I absolutely love this right here. And I could have just taken a black pen, outlined the white, and been done with it. Or I could have just shaded around the flowers and been done with it. So those are options that you could have done. And as I'm looking back and reflecting on this, I'm thinking, okay, the other options, different ways of using the same stencil and getting very different effects. So now once everything's dry, I am putting the stencil back on. Now here I'm just masking off parts of the stencil, the leaves that I don't want. I'm just going to colorize the flowers of this stencil. And I just want to make it a little bit easier to me. That's why I'm putting the masking tape on. As many of you know, I live on Vancouver Island and it is becoming almost spring here, and the um, things are starting to blossom. So it's an exciting time of year. I love flowers. I love being a gardener. Here I'm mixing. I've got quinacridone magenta, I've got orange, and I've got white, and I'm just stenciling with those colors right onto the flowers so that you get a different blend on each one. Some get more pink, some get more um, orange, and then you get this really great coral color when you mix them. And I absolutely love how that color really pops from the background. And the reason for that is if you look at the color wheel, that coral color that I created by mixing the paints for the flowers and the colors that are in the background are opposite each other on the color wheel. And when you use complementary colors or colors that are opposite each other, they will sing. Now, don't mix them wet, they will make mud. But when you put them beside each other, they give off a lot of energy and they will really pop. And that is a big reason why this page works so well. It's the color selection. So I'm really happy with it, but the flowers are looking a little bit more flat. And again, in my mind, where I want to go with this and where I am are two different places. So while I appreciate what's here, I'm striving to get a certain effect that I've seen Sean Petit doing and different artists doing in videos. Now I wanted to introduce a little bit of that coral to the background, so I'm just splattering it on. Just a little bit. And there you can see the splatter. There was leftover paint, great way of using leftover paint and marrying the background to the foreground. Now I dug out this, my Posca paint pen. I bought this 3 years ago when I moved to the island, and then I stopped outlining. I'm not a doodler. I'm drawn to it, and I thought, you know what? I bet you this will work. And these Posca paint pens, one, they didn't dry up over the time, and they just work like, oh, it just worked really, really well. So I'm just outlining all of it, and I'm not being overly careful. I just thought I needed some of the black on here. When I stenciled the color on, and you can see it in the close-up here, there's kind of a white halo, and I love that effect. So now we've got the white outlining and the dark and the black outlining that I'm doing, and that all adds to the finished piece. So once I'm done that, I decide, oh, you know, I've got the black here. I need a little bit of black in the background, and I use this circle and text stamp from Carabel Studios, and I'll put a link to it down below if you're interested in that. And then I get this one from Stampendous, this dot one of my favorite stamps, and add it. Now the background is darker and the blacks are all working together. Now here's what I was talking about, these colors being opposite each other on the color wheel. Now outline the leaves, and I pretty much instantaneously decided that that didn't improve it. I wanted to shade around, so I grab my charcoal pencil and I'm shading with that, and then I think I end up shading with just black paint and a sponge. There's lots of ways of doing the same thing, and the way that you use, or the way that I use it, is sometimes what I have out, whatever's easiest for me. but I typically always frame my pages by shading the outside edge. So I'm not happy with the leaves. So I decide that I am going to put the stencil back on and try something else. Again, this is my art journal. This is what it's for me. It is to try things. I am challenging myself to do something else. And it might work and it might not. Have gesso, will experiment. So I take the black and I'm just blackening that out. I liked it when it was white, but because I put the black lines on it, I thought I'm just going to go straight black. I've got black in the background. There's going to be black in the sentiment that I'm going to put. Maybe that would work. And the black did work. It gave it more presence than when it was white and outlined with the black. And they get a little bit more weight. Now I could have chosen to color them green as well. But again, when you are doing an art journal page, you are faced with thousands, many decisions. So I was looking at the flowers and I decided that they were looking very flat. And so I grabbed the quinacridone magenta and I am adding some shading with it. And it's adding just a little bit, but it's making a big impact. It's just giving it more depth and more realism. Then I grab my white and I'm using the floating acrylic technique, and I will put a link to the video where I teach you how to do that. And it is here, the combination of the shading with the darker color and adding the highlights with the white, that these flowers just came to life in my word. It just made it. It just tied everything together. And I often say that the finishing, the details are so key to turning a page that's okay to wow. And definitely this is this step right here. I like that moment when I'm creating and I do one step and all of a sudden it's like everything comes into focus and I go, yes, it's working. So I just play back. I keep going back and drawing and adding another layer of it if I see fit. And I'm just adding where I think it will look good. So there you see the sentiment that I chose. And again, I have a whole pile of sentiments in a bin. I just grab it out and I try to find one that works instead of printing out something new. I mean, I will print out something new, but part of the challenge is also to use something else. I like the white frostiness. The page had gotten a little dark, so I splattered with white, and that just makes it a little bit lighter overall. And because it covers the whole page, ties everything together. So I'm using the matte gel medium, or actually matte liquid medium, my favorite. I still have the gel medium, and I love it too, but this one is my reaching one. I reach for this most times. And I'm just gluing that down. And I didn't even grab a brush, as you saw. Now I've got my Sakura glaze pen. This is black. I love it. It is dimensional and shiny. And when it's dry, it is permanent. So it adds the darkness, and it's a nice broad tip, which I absolutely love. So my message to you guys is old ways won't open new doors. Try new techniques. The worst thing that can happen is you learn what doesn't work or what works, or you learn something. Challenge yourself to try something new. Here are some close-ups of it. Leave me a comment. Tell me about something new that you've tried. Give me a thumbs up. Share the video with your creative friends. Check out the links below if you're interested in any of those products. Thank you.